In the summer of 1999, a dad and his 12-year-old daughter walked into one of the most dangerous and remote mountain ranges in America. They wanted adventure. But after that day, no one ever saw them again. Rescue teams searched for weeks. They checked every trail, every river, and every cliff. They found nothing. No gear, no tracks. It was like the two of them had vanished off the face of the earth. For 11 years, no one knew the truth. Then, in 2010, 3 climbers halfway up a 1,500-foot wall on Mount Hooker saw something no one on the ground could ever see. A hidden ledge. A collapsed tent. And what was inside that tent would finally explain everything and leave even the most experienced climbers shaken. It is early morning in July of 1999. Mark stands in the driveway, loading a pile of ropes, helmets, and backpacks into the back of his old SUV. His 12-year-old daughter, Emily, bounces around him, laughing and asking questions. Inside the house, her mom packs snacks for the long trip. Before they leave, the 3 of them stand by the car. The family dog sits nearby, tail wagging, like he knows something big is happening. Mark bends down, gives Emily's mom a long hug, and says, "We'll be back in a week." Emily hugs her mom tight. She promises to be careful. Then the doors close. The engine starts. The SUV rolls away down the quiet street. Emily leans out the window waving. Her big smile, the last thing her mom sees. It looks like a normal family trip. No one standing there knows this will be the very last time anyone will ever see them alive. The car turns a corner and is gone. The driveway is empty again. For now, everything feels fine. Mark drives for hours. The road stretches out forever. At first, they pass little towns, gas stations, diners with a few cars out front. Then the towns get smaller. Houses become fewer. By the afternoon, there are no more houses, only grasslands and endless sky. The radio fades to static. The only sound is the hum of the tires and the wind rushing past. Emily presses her face to the glass. She has never seen land so empty. Her dad points out the peaks of the Wind River Mountains rising in the distance. They stop once for gas, then again for snacks. After that, there is nothing but road. By evening, the mountains are close. Finally, they reach a rough dirt road that ends at a small gravel parking area. This is the trailhead. They get out. It is so quiet that even their voices sound strange. No phones, no houses, no people, just them. And the wild. Mark locks the SUV. They sling their backpacks onto their shoulders and stand for a moment, looking at the long trail ahead. Then they start walking. The trail is rough from the very first step. Their packs are heavy. The ground is uneven, but Emily is excited. She keeps asking, "Are we almost there?" They cross streams with fast, cold water. They climb over fallen trees. Every hour, the mountains look closer and bigger. At lunchtime, they stop on a rock and eat peanut butter sandwiches. Mark points to the far cliffs and says, "That's where we're going." Emily smiles. She likes that it feels like an adventure that belongs to just the two of them. By the time the sun begins to go down, they are tired. They find a small clearing near a stream and set up their tent. The camp is simple: a tent, sleeping bags, and a little stove to boil water. After dinner, they lie back and look up at the sky. Out here, there are no city lights, just stars. Thousands of them. Emily falls asleep with the sound of water in the distance. For now, everything is safe. Tomorrow they will hike even deeper into the mountains. The next day is harder. The trail disappears in some places, turning into rongres, rocks and steep climbs. Mark checks his map again and again. Emily follows him, breathing hard but never complaining. Hours later, they finally come out of the trees. In front of them is a wide open valley. At the far end of that valley rises Mt. Hooker Dot looks unreal. A solid wall of gray rock stretching straight up thousands of feet. Emily stares at it, silent. They walk to the edge of a river and set up their base camp on a flat patch of ground. Mark lights a small stove. They boil water for dinner. Later, he pulls out a notebook or writes down the plan. Tomorrow they will climb partway up and fix ropes. Then come back to base camp. Emily listens, nods, and keeps looking at the huge wall. As the sun sets, the whole valley goes quiet. There's no one else here. Just a father and his daughter alone at the base of one of the wildest cliffs in America. And in 2 days, they will vanish. That evening, after dinner, Mark sits on a rock just outside the tent with a notebook in his lap. He draws a simple sketch of the huge wall in front of them. His plan is clear. Early tomorrow they will climb partway, set ropes, then come back down to this camp and rest. Emily sits next to him, staring up at the dark shape of the mountain. Against the sky, it looks endless. She asks, "Are you sure we can do it?" Mark smiles and says, "We'll take it slow." She nods, holding her knees, excited but nervous. When the light is gone, they crawl into their sleeping bags. Emily listens to the wind hitting the tent walls. She feels safe with her dad there. By morning, they will be ready to begin. No one knows this will be their last night at base camp. Back home, the weekend comes. Emily's mom waits for the call she was promised. Each hour she tells herself they're fine, maybe just late. By Sunday night, she tries their home phone. No answer. She calls again Monday morning. Nothing. Out at the trailhead, their car still sits in the same spot, dusty, untouched. People in the area notice it has not moved. Day after day passes. By midweek, the truth begins to sink in. Something is wrong. The quiet drive home they should have been on never happened. The trailhead is still, the mountain silent. No one knows if they are stuck, hurt, or lost somewhere out there in the wild. Every second of silence feels heavier. After days of no word, the alarm is raised. Park rangers are called. A search team is formed. Helicopters are readied. Back in town, the story spreads fast. People remember seeing Mark and Emily leaving, smiling in their car, full of plans for a simple trip. That memory, which felt happy at the time, now feels haunting. It is all anyone can picture. The father packing gear, the little girl leaning out of the car window, waving goodbye. That was the last normal moment. Now, everyone waits, scared, as the search for them begins in the wild mountains. By Sunday evening, the house is too quiet. Emily's mom keeps looking out the window, waiting for the sound of their SUV on the driveway. It never comes. She picks up the phone again. Nothing. No ring back. Monday morning, she tells herself maybe they are just late. Maybe they stopped for food. But every hour that passes makes her feel worse. By Monday night, the fear is heavy. Family members call friends. No one has heard a single word. The plan was simple. A week-long trip, then back home. Mark is careful. He would never stay out this long without saying something. The phone sits on the table. Silent. It was supposed to be a fun trip. Now it feels like something bad has happened. By Tuesday, she cannot wait anymore. She calls the ranger station. She says, "My husband and my daughter went climbing. They should be back. They aren't back." The ranger on the line listens. Then he says, "We're sending someone out there today." That afternoon, a ranger drives up the rough dirt road to the trailhead. At the very end, he stops. There it is. As Mark's SUV. It is parked just where he left it over a week ago. The car is covered in dust. It has not been moved. The ranger steps closer. The windows are rolled up. The keys are not inside. There is no note on the seat. He tries the door. Locked. The ground around the car is empty. There are no fresh footprints, no gear. It looks like they parked, locked up, and walked into the mountains and never came back. He radios back. "I've got the vehicle," he says. No sign of them. By evening, more rangers arrive. They shine flashlights through the windows. Nothing looks strange inside. The SUV is like a time capsule, frozen somewhere beyond the trees. Mark and Emily have vanished. The next morning, the search begins at sunrise. Helicopters slice through the sky above the Wind River Range. On the ground, rescue trucks line up at the trailhead. Dozens of searchers pour into the forest. Every path is checked. Dogs sniff the dirt, pulling hard on their leashes. Rangers shout their names into the valley. "Mark! Emily!" The wind carries their voices away. Above, spotters lean out of the helicopter doors, staring at the endless gray rock. They look for movement. A tent. Anything. The days are long. Teams hike for miles, cross freezing rivers, climb ridges, and scan every slope. Food and water is brought in by pack horses. At night, the searchers sleep out in the wild. In town, the family waits by the phone. They hope for a call that says, "We found them. They're okay." But call after call brings nothing. Every morning, the searchers start over, looking in new places, shouting the same names. The mountain doesn't answer. On the fourth day, searchers find something. Faint footprints in the dirt. Far up the trail. It looks like two sets, one big, one small. The prints lead toward the cliffs. For a few minutes, everyone feels hope. But then the prints hit solid rock. And that is where they stop. No more tracks. They search the rocks on hands and knees, looking for any sign. Nothing. There is no tent, no rope, no backpacks. It is like the two of them stepped into thin air and disappeared. The helicopter sweeps over. The high walls again. Nothing. The searchers sit in the dirt at the end of the day, staring at the ground. How can two people just be gone? The mountain stays silent. Searchers are still moving through the trees when the weather suddenly changes. Dark clouds roll over the mountains faster than anyone expected. Within an hour, cold rain pours down. Trails turn into mud. The search dogs shiver. High above, helicopters try to stay in the air. The wind grabs at them, pushing them sideways. Pilots call out warnings over the radio. By the second day, the rain turns to snow. It is July, but the wind feels like winter. From the ground, no one can even see the mountain. A white fog swallows everything above the tree line. Searchers huddle under tarps and wait for clear skies. But the storm doesn't break. They know then. Every hour matters. If Mark and Emily are out there, trapped or hurt, this storm is taking away their chance. 5 days pass before the fog finally lifts. When it does, the cliffs look even more empty. By the end of the second week, the search leaders meet. They have checked every valley, every ridge, every stream they can reach. The helicopters have flown hundreds of miles. Nothing. On day 20, they make the hardest decision. The head ranger calls the family together and says the words no one wants to hear. "We can't keep looking. We've done everything we can. We found no sign of them. Not a single clue." For a long time, no one speaks. The searchers pack up their gear and leave. The mountain goes back to being silent. The news spreads across the state. People start to talk. Some say Mark and Emily must have fallen into a deep crack somewhere high. On the wall, a place so hidden that no one can see it from the ground or the air. Others think they might have been hurt on the trail before even reaching the cliffs. Few wonder if they were attacked by someone in the wilderness. Every idea sounds possible. Articles appear in newspapers. Reporters talk about the father who loved climbing and the young girl who wanted to be just like him. But every story ends the same way. No proof. No gear. No clothing. No bodies. The mystery grows bigger. At the trailhead, their SUV sits alone. 4. The people who pass by, it becomes a symbol of the question no one can answer. A week after the search ends, Emily's mother drives alone to the trailhead. The gravel crunches under the tires. She gets out of the car and stands in the exact place where Mark and Emily began their hike. The air is still. The mountains rise ahead of her, silent and cold. She stares at them for a long time. Finally, she speaks out loud, even though there is no one to hear her. "I know you're still out there. I'm not done. I will never stop looking for you." Tears fall, but she does not move. For a few more minutes, she just stands there, listening to the wind. Then she turns around, gets back into the car, and drives away. She doesn't know it yet, but she will return to this same spot again and again for years. Her search is not over. The search ended, but the questions did not. Months passed, then years. The seasons kept changing. In summer, the trails were full of bright green. In winter, deep snow covered everything. But the mountains stayed silent. Every time Emily's mom drove to that trailhead, the same thing waited for her. Nothing. The gravel parking lot sat empty. The wind blew across it. No one had answers. No gear. No rope. No tent. No bodies. It was like the earth swallowed them. For a while, people thought maybe a hunter, a hiker, or a camper would come across something by accident. A boot. A jacket. Something. But each year, nothing turned up. As time moved on, most people stopped talking about it. Not the family. Every birthday, every holiday, there was an empty chair. They still looked at photos of that trip and asked themselves, same thing. How can two people just disappear? The next summer, new climbers came to Mt. Hooker. They all heard the story. At night, around campfires, they whispered about the father and daughter. The story always started the same. They hiked in. They never hiked out. Some climbers said the mountain itself took them. Others said they must be somewhere high on the wall, hidden on a tiny ledge where no one can see. Every time the wind hit their tents, they thought about what it must have been like for that dad and his little girl up there, all alone. Even as the years went on, new climbers kept telling the same story. It became a legend in the climbing world. They passed the tale on like a warning. This mountain is no joke. People disappear here. When the campfire went quiet, everyone looked at the huge wall. And everyone wondered if maybe, just maybe, the next person to climb might be the one to find them. The mystery made it to the news. Articles showed photos of Mark smiling with his gear and Emily holding a helmet almost too big for her. Magazines wrote about them. TV reporters talked about the search and how nothing was ever found. Then the years went by, and new kinds of shows came along. Podcasts picked up the story. People who had never climbed a mountain started to talk about them. Listeners wanted to know, how can a dad and his daughter just vanish with no trace? Every podcast episode came to the same sad place. No answers. No clues. It almost felt like the mountain wanted to keep its secret forever. For the family, it was painful to see their photos pop up again and again. But there was also one small thing. At least people hadn't forgotten them. The story was still alive. Every year, Mark's wife picked up the phone. She called the same ranger office. She asked the same question every time. Has anyone found anything? She held her breath waiting for the answer. Every single time, the ranger said the same thing. No, nothing new. And every time, she thanked them, hung up, and sat in silence. She never stopped making that call. No matter how many years passed, because she needed to hear that if there was any news at all, she would know right away. That was the only thing she could do. After years of hearing nothing new, people started to ask harder questions. If there was no tent, no gear, no bodies, then what really happened out there? Some believed the trail itself held the answer. Maybe someone had been out there, someone dangerous, and Mark and Emily crossed paths with them. Others thought the wilderness was the real danger. They could have gotten lost and run out of food, but most people kept coming back to the same thought. The wall. Climbers said that if they made it onto the face of Mt. Hooker and something went wrong. There are places so hidden that even a helicopter can't see. So the theories grew. Every year there were new guesses, new voices on forums and podcasts trying to put the puzzle together. But all of them ended the same way. No proof. To understand why no one could find them, you have to see Mt. Hooker. It is not a hill. It is a giant. The cliff face rises thousands of feet, straight up. From the ground, it looks like one flat wall. But when you get close, you see cracks, shelves, and holes in the rock. Some of these cracks are so deep you can't see the bottom. A person could fall into one of them and disappear. Even if you knew exactly where to look, you might never see them. And so the years kept passing. Every summer, people walked into that valley. Every summer, they left without answers. The only sound was the wind moving through the grass and bouncing off the cliffs. No new clues. No new signs. Nothing changed. The mountain stayed exactly the same. It felt like it wanted to keep its secret forever. In the summer of 2010, 3 skilled climbers hiked for 2 long days to reach Mt. Hooker. Their goal is simple: climb a new route on the massive wall that no one has tried before. They have heard the story of the missing father and daughter. Everyone in the climbing world knows it. But as they unload their heavy packs and look up at the huge gray wall, they push that thought aside. They set up camp in the valley, just like Mark and Emily did 11 years earlier. At dawn, they rope up and start their climb. The wall is so big that the first 100 feet feel like nothing. Hour after hour, they move upward. Their arms ache. Their feet hurt. They know this is one of the most remote and serious climbs in the country. Still, the weather is good. The rock is dry. They are focused on the climb and nothing else. Then, as the sun moves overhead, they reach a spot that no one has been to in years. And right there, something catches their eye. The wall in front of them looks smooth, but when they climb around a large corner, they see it. A narrow, flat ledge. It is hidden from the ground below. From a helicopter, you wouldn't notice it either. It is like a small secret shelf carved into the side of the wall. The 3 climbers pull themselves onto the ledge to rest. They are almost 1,000 feet off the ground. They take off their packs and sit down to drink water. For a few moments, they just breathe, trying to relax. Then one of them points. There, pushed up against the back of the ledge, is something strange. It looks like fabric. At first, they think it could be trash that blew in during a storm. But as they step closer, they realize it is not just fabric. It is shaped like a tent. An old tent. The 3 climbers look at each other. They all know the same story. They stop drinking water. They forget about resting. They walk slowly toward it. The tent is so worn out that it has collapsed flat against the rock. The fabric is faded, almost the same color as the stone. If they hadn't come onto this ledge, they never would have seen it. The wind has pressed the tent tight against the back of the ledge. It looks like it has been there for a very long time. The climbers freeze. They don't touch it at first. One of them whispers, "Could this be them?" The other 2 just stare. It is quiet on the wall. No sound except the wind. For years, people have been looking for Mark and Emily. Could this be the place no one ever thought to check? Very slowly, they crouch down and look closer. Zipper on the tent is broken. The entrance has collapsed. No one has been inside it in years. Behind them, the valley looks tiny. In front of them, the tent is the only thing on the ledge. Their climb is no longer just a climb. They have found something important. next to the tent. They see two dusty backpacks leaning against a rock. The color of the fabric is faded. One is large, the other is smaller, like it belongs to a kid. Coiled ropes lie next to them. Metal carabiners hang from loops. Rusted and frozen in place. Everything looks untouched. The three climbers know instantly what this means. This is a camp. That was never packed up. Whoever stayed here never got the chance to leave. The air feels heavy on that ledge. For a long time, they don't speak. Finally, one of them says, "We need to call this in." They pull out a satellite phone and contact the ranger station. Their voices shake as they explain what they found. There's a tent. There are 2 packs. This has been here for years. We think we just found Mark and Emily's camp. Down below, rangers listen in shock. Thought help is on the way. On that ledge, the 3 climbers sit very still. No one says anything for a few seconds. They all know exactly what this camp means. Finally, one of them opens the top pocket of his pack and pulls out a satellite phone. His hands shake as he powers it on. He calls the ranger station. The line clicks and a voice answers. He speaks slowly, trying not to sound panicked. "We found something on T. Hooker," he says. "A tent. 2 packs. It's been here for a long time. We think it's them." The ranger on the other end goes silent. Then the questions come fast. "Are you safe? Can you mark the location? Can you hold position?" They give details, reading the GPS coordinates from the small screen. The ranger says, "Stay where you are. We are coming now." The climbers hang up. They look back at the tent and the dusty gear. It is no longer just a climb. They have just reopened a case that has been cold for 11 years. The sound of a helicopter grows louder as the day turns to afternoon. The 3 climbers sit on the ledge, waiting. The helicopter appears from behind a ridge and hovers close to the wall. Wind from the blades blasts dust across the ledge. Inside the chopper, rangers look out, spotting the 3 climbers and the collapsed tent. 2 rangers clip into ropes and rappel down. Their boots touch the ledge. The climbers move aside to make room. The rangers crouch next to the tent. They do not open it yet. One ranger radios up. "We're on the ledge. Site confirmed. Old tent. 2 packs. Appears untouched for years." The helicopter stays overhead, the sound echoing off the cliffs. The rangers begin to take pictures of everything. The tent, the ropes, the small pack, the big pack. The 3 climbers watch in silence. They know they have found something that will finally give the family answers. The mountain has kept its secret for more than a decade. But now, that secret is about to come out. With photos taken and the helicopter still hovering above, one ranger kneels beside the smaller of the 2 backpacks. He slowly unzips it. Inside are folded clothes, a pair of worn shoes, and a metal water bottle with rust around the cap. Everything is covered in dust. The ranger looks at the larger pack next. When he opens it, he finds climbing gear, a faded jacket, and a small camera wrapped in an old shirt. He carefully places the items in the evidence bags. Then, in a side pocket, his hand touches something different. It feels like paper. He pulls out a notebook. The cover is stiff and weather-worn. Rain and wind have damaged it, but it is still together. He holds it up and shouts over the helicopter noise, "We've got a journal." The second ranger looks over his shoulder. They both know this could explain what happened on this ledge all those years ago. The notebook is the first real clue in 11 years. They place it in a protective bag and prepare to take everything back. Down. The mystery has finally started to open. When rangers open the notebook, the first pages tell a simple story. Mark wrote about how he and Emily started their climb on a bright morning. They had practiced for this moment. They moved slowly, 1 rope length at a time. Every note talks about how proud he was of Emily. By the end of the first day, They were already hundreds of feet above the valley. They slept on a small ledge, tied to the wall, looking at the stars. The next morning, he wrote, "Emily is doing great. She's tired but smiling." That second day, they climbed higher. The wall was huge. Every hour took all their strength. But the notebook says they were happy. Mark drew a small sketch of the route. He wrote, "If weather holds, we'll be fine." The last note from that calm day ends with, "Emily says she can see forever from up here." Everything after that changes. The next page is written fast, the handwriting uneven. Mark writes that dark clouds came from nowhere. The wind hit them first. It slammed their bodies against the rock. Then the rain started. Water ran over the stone like a river. The rock turned slick. Every move became dangerous. Mark wrote that they tried to climb down, but the storm was too strong. The rope was heavy and frozen in their hands. Lightning cracked above them. The sound of thunder bounced off the cliffs. Mark knew they had to find safety fast. Through the heavy rain, he spotted a small ledge. He wrote, "We have to reach it or we will be swept away." They pulled with everything they had and forced their way to that ledge. Soaked, cold, and shaking, they dragged the small tent out of their pack and set it up. That was the last safe move they could make. The next entries in the notebook are short and scared. Mark writes that the storm kept getting worse. The ledge was small. It barely had enough space for the tent and the two of them. They couldn't climb up. The rock was too wet. They couldn't go down. The storm made it impossible. Inside the tent, they tried to stay dry, but water still got in. Their clothes were soaked. For hours, they listened to the sound of wind. It never stopped. Mark wrote that it sounded like a scream, echoing off the rock. At night, the temperature dropped. The ropes were stiff with ice. He wrote, "We will wait it out. Emily is scared, but strong." He described holding her close, keeping her warm as much as he could. They thought the storm might last one night, but the storm didn't leave. It just stayed. The next part of the notebook shows 3 days of fear. Mark writes that their food ran out. They melted snow for water, but soon even that was gone. The storm never stopped. The tent shook nonstop. Mark's handwriting becomes shaky. On the second day, Emily wrote a short note of her own. She wrote, "I am scared. It is very cold. But I am with Dad. He says we will be okay." Mark kept writing, "We need to wait for the storm to break. If it clears, I will try to climb down and get help." But the storm never gave them a chance. By the third day, the words in the notebook are few. Just single sentences. "Still raining. Can't move. Emily is cold. Please stop." Those are the last clear words before the handwriting trails off. It is the final part anyone will ever read from Mark while he was alive. On the 4th morning in the notebook, the writing changes again. Mark says the rain has finally slowed. The clouds are still heavy, but the wind is not as strong. He knows they can't stay there any longer. Emily is weak. She hasn't eaten in days. So he makes a decision. Mark writes, "I will go down. Emily will stay here. I will bring help." He describes how he checks every knot on the rope. He tells Emily what to do. Stay inside the tent, stay warm, don't move. She doesn't want him to leave. But he promises he will come back. Mark ties into the rope. He writes, "I have to do this. I love you." The next words say, "Starting down now." The last thing he writes is short, written fast, almost like he didn't have time to say more. "Be brave. I'll be back." Then there are no more words from him on that page. The rest of the notebook is blank. That one line about starting down is the last entry. There are no more notes about the weather. No more words about Emily. Rangers believe that. Mark clipped into the rope and began to climb down the wet wall alone. Something must have happened on that descent. The wall is almost 1,000 feet tall. A single slip would mean falling into the cracks below. They think he fell sometime. After leaving the ledge, his plan was to get help. But he never made it. The rope at the ledge was still tied exactly the way he left it. There was no sign of him climbing back up. For Emily, that meant waiting. She stayed behind, trapped. The notebook, now safe in the ranger's hands, shows the exact moment the story stops. After that, nothing more was written. It's like time froze on that ledge. From the evidence left on the ledge, investigators believe. Emily waited alone for several days. The small pack still had her jacket inside. The empty food wrappers showed she had eaten everything before her dad left. There was no rope left for her to climb. She had no way down. She was just a 12-year-old kid stuck almost 1,000 feet in the air. She stayed inside the torn tent, surrounded by gear she couldn't use. The weather may have cleared for a while, but there was no rescue coming. Her father never returned. The helicopter crews in 1999 had flown past that wall, but the ledge was too hidden. The investigators stand there in silence and try to imagine those days. The wind, the cold, the fear. She must have realized, as the days went by, that no one was coming. The rangers believe Emily's final hours were quiet. The small tent was still zipped closed. When they found it, the position of her things shows she stayed inside, maybe lying down, for as long as she could. They think she probably sat and looked out at the empty valley below. She would have seen no movement, no sound of help. The wind on the wall was the only thing she heard. Her strength faded day by day. Without food and water, there was nothing she could do. In those last hours, she was just a child waiting for someone who could not return. The ledge, the wall, and the valley below stayed silent. After years of wondering, the truth is that she never left that spot. When the storm ended, she was still there. When the helicopters came, she was still there. And when the search stopped, she was still there. Waiting. After the journal is found, rangers know they have to check the bottom of the wall. If Mark fell, his body and his gear could still be there. The next morning, a group of rangers and climbers begins a slow search. They rope together and move carefully across loose rock. The slope below the wall is steep and dangerous. Every step sends small stones rolling down. They check cracks, deep holes, and piles of broken rock. It is quiet. The only sound is the wind moving past them. Hours pass. They spread out, scanning every inch. It is a grim task, but they know this is the only way to find the truth. Finally, late in the day, one of the climbers calls out, "Over here." The others rush toward the voice. Something is caught between two large boulders. It is fabric, faded and torn. And next to it, something pale lies half buried. The team kneels down. In the gap between the boulders, they see bones. The sun has bleached them white over the years. Nearby, there are pieces of torn clothing. The colors are faded almost to gray. A climbing harness, shredded by time, is still attached to the remains. It is clear that someone fell a long way and came to rest here. The rangers work slowly and carefully. They collect every piece of gear, every scrap of fabric, and every bone they can find. They move with respect. Even though so much time has passed, it is clear who this must be. Far above, on that hidden ledge, Emily had waited for help that never came. Down here, her father had tried to reach her safety and never made it. The rangers know this is the first real answer for the family. Weeks later, the collected remains are tested in a lab. The results are clear. It is Mark. The news is delivered to the family. They now know that Mark had left the ledge, just like he wrote in a notebook. He had tried to climb down through wet rock and ice, and at some point, his strength gave out. He fell hundreds of feet. The discovery confirms what everyone suspected, but never knew for sure. Mark had died trying to save his daughter. While one team searched below, another stayed on the ledge. They waited until the weather cleared. Then, with ropes keeping them secure, they opened the collapsed tent. Inside, they find a sleeping bag. It is small. Inside that bag, they find tiny bones. It is Emily. She never left the ledge. She stayed exactly where her dad told her to stay. The evidence shows she waited for him. She waited until she could wait no more. Rangers place everything into bags and lower them carefully down the wall. On the ground below, they hold a moment of silence. After 11 long years, the mystery is over. The mountain had hidden them, but now the truth is known. The family finally has their answer. Once the search is finished, the work of bringing everything down begins. It is slow and careful. Teams clip each evidence bag to ropes. Piece by piece, they lower the bags down the 1,000-foot wall. Inside are the 2 backpacks, the old tent, the journal, and all the bones they found. Even the smallest pieces of fabric are collected. The Rangers know they are carrying more than just gear. They are carrying the final story of a father and his daughter. On the ground, other team members wait and catch each load. They pack them safely for the long hike out of the valley. By evening, everything has been removed from the wall. The ledge that hid the mystery for 11 years is empty at last. The mountain is quiet again, but the secret it kept has finally come down. When the teams return, the sheriff drives to meet the family. They sit in a quiet room. Mark's wife is there, holding a photo of Emily. The sheriff explains what they found. He tells them about the journal. He tells them how Mark tried to climb down. He tells them that Emily stayed on the ledge until the end. Every word hurts. But now there is no more guessing, no more wondering. For the first time in 11 years, they know exactly what happened. There are tears. There are long silences. The family thanks the Rangers for finding them. It is heartbreaking, but also a kind of relief. The waiting is finally over. Mark and Emily are coming home. In the weeks that follow, experts study the case. They explain why there was no chance for a rescue. First, the storm. The wind and rain came fast and trapped them high on the wall. Second, the distance. Mount Hooker is deep in the wilderness. It takes 2 full days just to hike there. Third, the height. Even if someone saw them, a helicopter can't reach a hidden ledge like that. And last, the time. By the time anyone realized they were missing, the storm was over and the search had already failed. The wall had hidden them too well. Mark's plan was brave. He tried to climb down to bring help, but the mountain gave him no chance. Experts tell the climbing world that this tragedy is a warning. In such remote places, a small mistake or a sudden storm can be the end. For everyone who climbs there now. Mark and Emily's story is a lesson. Sometimes help cannot come. Sometimes you are on your own. And yet, even with no hope, Mark still tried. He did everything he could to save his daughter. Months after the discovery, the family makes the long trip to Wyoming. They hike the same 2-day trail that Mark and Emily once walked. But this time, there is no joy. At the base of Mount Hooker, they stand together. Friends, rangers, climbers, family. No one talks at first. They just look up at the huge wall of rock. The same wall that took so much from them. The ledge where it all ended is too far away to see, but everyone knows it is there. The valley is silent, except for the sound of the wind. One by one, people place small stones in a circle on the ground. It is a way to say, "We remember." The family holds hands. For years, they had only questions. Now they have answers, but it still hurts just as much. This is where their trip ended. After a long silence, the memorial begins. A ranger speaks first. He talks about the search, the journal, and the courage it took for Mark to try and save his daughter. Then, Mark's wife speaks. She holds the same photo she carried for all those years. She says, They loved this place. They were happiest here. I just wish they had come home. A teacher from Emily's school reads a note from her classmates. It says how kind she was, how she always wanted to explore. Others tell stories about Mark, how he loved the mountains, how he never gave up on anything. Every word is simple. Every voice shakes with pain. When the last person finishes speaking, there is no applause, only silence. Everyone looks up at the wall again. They imagine a father and a daughter, high on the rock, together. A small bronze plaque is placed on a rock near the trail. It has 2 names on it. That's all. Mark and Emily. No dates. No long story. Just their names. The wind moves across the plaque, carrying the sound of the mountains. It is simple, but that's the way the family wanted it. Anyone who walks past will know that this place holds a story about love, about danger, and about how fast a storm can change everything. In the years that follow, climbers who come to Empty Hooker always stop at the plaque. They kneel for a moment. Some say a few quiet words. Others leave small things behind: a single flower, a piece of rope, a carabiner clipped to the rock. These are simple gifts, but they mean something. For climbers, this place has become sacred. They know the risks of the mountain, and they know the story of Mark and Emily. Every time someone climbs here now, they do it with more respect. The wall is still as dangerous as ever, but the memory of what happened stays alive. Year after year, new climbers hear the story. They learn why those 2 names are on that small plaque, and they promise to remember them. As time passes, the story of Mark and Emily spreads far beyond Wyoming. Every climbing school, every guide service, and every ranger in the Wind River Range talks about them. The story becomes a lesson. When new climbers ask about Empty Hooker, the rangers tell them, "This wall is beautiful, but it can kill you if the weather turns." They explain how quickly a safe climb can become a trap, how storms roll in with no warning, how rescue, even with helicopters, can take days. The images of the ledge, the journal, and the 2 backpacks are shown in climbing magazines all over the world. It is no longer just a tragedy. It has become a warning. Nature does not wait. It does not forgive. Mark and Emily's story is told again and again to remind climbers what is at stake. It is told not to scare them away, but to make sure they respect the mountain. Even the best climbers pause when they hear it. They imagine themselves up there, a storm coming in, no help for miles, and they understand how fast things can go wrong.